The coffee machine in Luna Gateway's main conference room made a loud gurgling sound that echoed through the empty corridors. Tom wiped his sweaty palms on his uniform and checked the time display for the 15th time in 5 minutes. 3 hours until first contact with an alien species, and he was worried about whether the coffee would taste good enough for beings who had traveled across the galaxy. Dr. Amy Walsh walked into the room carrying a stack of data tablets and nearly tripped over the extension cord Tom had run across the floor to power his backup recording equipment. She caught herself and laughed, shaking her head at the mess of cables and devices scattered around what was supposed to be humanity's most important diplomatic meeting room. "Tom, please tell me you have a plan for all this equipment," she said, stepping carefully around a small mountain of spare batteries and portable hard drives. Tom looked up from where he was crouched behind the main conference table trying to untangle a particularly stubborn knot of audio cables. "I figured we should record everything from multiple angles, for history, plus backup recordings in case the main system fails and backup recordings for the backup recordings." Amy smiled. This was exactly the kind of human thinking that probably made sense to no one except humans. Over-prepare for everything. Assume something will go wrong and have 17 different ways to solve the same problem. She wondered what the aliens would think of their approach to important events. Captain Rivers entered the room with his usual calm confidence, but Amy noticed the slight tension around his eyes. Even the most experienced space officers had never dealt with actual first contact before. They had protocols and procedures, sure, but those were all theoretical. Today they would meet beings from another world who had somehow found Earth and decided to make formal contact. "Status report," Rivers said, settling into his chair at the head of the polished conference table. "All departments ready, sir," Amy replied. "We have translation software running, cultural presentation materials prepared, and our response team briefed on the protocols they transmitted." Tom emerged from behind the table, dusting off his knees. "Recording equipment is ready. I have cameras positioned at 12 different angles plus audio pickups throughout the room. If they say anything important, we will catch it." Rivers nodded approvingly. The young technician's thoroughness might seem excessive, but in a situation like this, having too much documentation was better than having too little. "What do we know about their ship?" Amy pulled up a holographic display showing the alien vessel. It was elegant and smooth, like someone had carved it from a single piece of silver metal. No visible weapons or threatening features, just graceful curves that seemed to flow from one end to the other. The Talani ship registered as Harmony when they first contacted us. Their messages have been polite and formal. They follow something called Galactic Trade Consortium Protocols for first contact. "Sounds organized," Rivers said. "Very organized," Amy agreed. "They sent us a detailed schedule for today's meeting. Formal greetings at precisely 1400 hours, cultural presentations, technology demonstrations, then preliminary discussions about trade and diplomatic relations. They seem to have done this many times before." Tom finished his final equipment check and joined them at the table. "Their translation system is incredible. Perfect grammar, formal speech patterns, very precise word choices. Makes our language sound almost sloppy in comparison." Rivers studied the alien ship on the display. Everything about their approach suggested a highly advanced civilization that had perfected the art of peaceful first contact. They had given Earth 3 days advance notice, transmitted all necessary protocols, and even included basic information about their biology, so humans could prepare appropriate environmental conditions for the meeting. "They are probably expecting us to be impressed and grateful," Amy said. "Most species they contact are probably much less advanced than they are. We might be just another routine integration into their galactic community." The communication system chimed softly. "Luna Gateway. This is the vessel Harmony. We are beginning final approach for the scheduled diplomatic meeting. Requesting permission to dock." Rivers activated the comm system. "Harmony, this is Captain Rivers of Luna Gateway. You are cleared for docking at Port 7. Welcome to Earth. Space." "Acknowledged, Captain Rivers. We will dock in 30 minutes and disembark for the meeting at the scheduled time. We look forward to bringing your species into the galactic community." The connection closed, leaving the 3 humans in thoughtful silence. Tom went back to checking his equipment one more time. Amy reviewed her presentation materials and practiced her opening remarks under her breath. Rivers stared at the alien ship as it grew larger on the display. None of them realized they were about to provide the Galactic Trade Consortium with the most unusual first contact report in their lengthy history. 30 minutes later, the docking clamps engaged with a soft metallic click. The airlock cycled, and Ambassador Veltar emerged with his small delegation. The Talani were tall and graceful, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes that seemed to take in every detail of their surroundings. They moved with deliberate precision, each step carefully placed, each gesture controlled and purposeful. Veltar wore what appeared to be ceremonial robes that shifted color slightly as he moved. His voice, when he spoke, was melodious and perfectly modulated. "Greetings, representatives of Earth. I am Ambassador Veltar of the Galactic Trade Consortium. We come in peace and friendship to welcome your species into the greater galactic community." Rivers stepped forward with equal formality. "Ambassador Veltar, welcome to Luna Gateway. I am Captain Rivers, representing the Earth governments. We are honored by your visit and eager to learn about the galaxy beyond our system." The exchange continued exactly as planned. Formal introductions were made, ceremonial gifts were presented, and both sides expressed appropriate gratitude and respect. The Talani seemed pleased with how smoothly everything was proceeding. Their advanced planning had clearly prepared the humans well for this historic moment. Amy began setting up the holographic projector for her cultural presentation. Carefully following the schedule they had been given, Tom crouched behind his equipment station, making final adjustments to the recording angles. Everything was going perfectly according to the diplomatic protocols that had worked successfully for hundreds of other species. Then Tom's tablet slipped from his hands. The device hit the floor with a sharp crack and its screen flickered once before resuming normal operation. But the impact had somehow activated Tom's personal music playlist, and suddenly the formal diplomatic meeting was filled with the opening guitar riff of a classic rock song at full volume. Tom scrambled to grab the tablet and stop the music, his face burning red with embarrassment. Amy and Rivers both turned to stare at him with expressions of horror. The Talani delegation stood frozen in perfect stillness, their large, dark eyes fixed on the small device that had just shattered the ceremonial dignity of first contact with an alien species. The music finally stopped, leaving the room in absolute silence. Tom looked up from his recovered tablet to find 9 pairs of eyes staring at him with varying degrees of shock, confusion, and in the case of Captain Rivers, barely contained panic. Then Amy started laughing. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a peaceful meadow under twin suns, where elegant structures rose like crystalline trees from rolling hills of silver grass. Soft music played in the background, harmonious and calm, as Ambassador Veltar gestured gracefully toward the image. "This is our homeworld of Tellan Prime," he said, his melodious voice filling the conference room. "For over 3,000 years, our civilization has lived in perfect harmony with nature and each other. We have eliminated conflict, suffering, and chaos through careful planning and adherence to proven methods." Dr. Amy Walsh watched the presentation with growing fascination and a strange sense of unease. Everything about Talani culture seemed designed for maximum efficiency and minimum disruption. Their cities were perfectly symmetrical, their art followed mathematical principles of beauty, and their society operated like a well-tuned machine. The Talani delegation sat in perfect posture, hands folded identically, listening to their ambassador with respectful attention. They had not moved unnecessarily since taking their seats, and Amy realized she had not seen any of them blink at what humans would consider normal intervals. "Our philosophy centers on the concept of Velnash, which translates approximately to the path of least disruption," Veltar continued. "By following established patterns and avoiding unnecessary deviation from proven methods, we have achieved unprecedented peace and prosperity." Captain Rivers nodded politely, though Amy caught him suppressing a small yawn. Tom was still recovering from his earlier embarrassment, sitting rigidly upright and trying not to touch any of his equipment unnecessarily. The young technician, had barely spoken since the music incident, clearly terrified of causing another diplomatic disaster. The presentation continued with displays of Talani achievements in art, science, and engineering. Everything was impressive and beautiful in a sterile, predictable way. Their music consisted of mathematical progressions that followed ancient formulas. Their architecture employed the same basic principles across their entire planet. Their literature explored themes of harmony and social cooperation through carefully structured narratives. We have successfully integrated 237 species into the Galactic Trade Consortium using these same presentation methods, Veltar concluded. Each new species brings unique perspectives that enrich our collective knowledge while maintaining the stability that benefits all. Rivers stood as the Talani presentation ended. Thank you, Ambassador. That was most enlightening. Dr. Walsh will now present information about human culture and achievements. Amy activated her own holographic projector, starting with images of Earth from space. The blue and green planet rotated slowly, showing the swirling cloud patterns and the obvious signs of a thriving biosphere. She had planned her presentation carefully, beginning with humanity's greatest achievements and most admirable qualities. Earth is home to approximately 8 billion humans, she began. Our species has developed remarkable diversity in culture, language, and creative expression while maintaining a single planetary civilization. The first section went well. Images of classical architecture, Renaissance paintings, and symphonic orchestras impressed the Talani delegation. Mathematical achievements, scientific discoveries, and engineering marvels demonstrated human intellectual capability. The aliens nodded approvingly at displays of human cooperation in space exploration and disaster relief efforts. But then Amy reached the section on modern human culture and communication. One of our most significant recent achievements is the development of a global information network that connects virtually every human on the planet, she said, displaying the internet as a web of interconnected nodes spanning the globe. The Talani leaned forward with interest. Global communication networks were common among advanced species and usually indicated mature social development. Amy activated a sample of internet content, intending to show news sites, educational resources, and examples of human collaboration. Instead, the holographic display filled with a chaotic mixture of social media posts, viral videos, memes, and random conversations from across the planet. The aliens watched in growing confusion as the display showed humans sharing pictures of their meals, animals doing amusing things, people attempting dangerous stunts, heated arguments about trivial subjects, jokes that made no logical sense, and an endless stream of content that seemed to serve no practical purpose. This appears to be random noise, one of the Talani delegates said carefully. Where is the organized information distribution system? Amy cleared her throat nervously. Well, it is organized, just not in a centralized way. Humans share whatever they find interesting or important, and the network organizes itself based on what people want to see. But there is no quality control protocol, another Talani observed. No verification of information accuracy, no standardization of content categories. That's true, Amy admitted. We prefer to let individuals decide what information they trust and what they find valuable. The display continued cycling through human internet content. Videos of people launching themselves off bridges with elastic cords. Heated debates about whether a particular image showed a blue dress or a white dress. Elaborate practical jokes. Cats playing pianos. People attempting to break world records for increasingly absurd activities. Veltar's composed expression began showing signs of strain. Dr. Walsh, is this communication network representative of how your species processes and shares information? Before Amy could answer, Engineer Pete entered the conference room carrying a toolkit and wearing a friendly smile. He had been asked to stand by in case any technical problems arose during the cultural exchange, but no one had told him the meeting was still in progress. Hey folks, sorry to interrupt, Pete said cheerfully. The environmental controls were making some weird noises, so I figured I should check them out before your guests got uncomfortable. He walked directly to a wall panel and began opening it up while talking. You know how these older stations are. Everything works fine until you really need it. Then something always goes wrong at the worst possible time. The Talani delegation watched in fascination and growing alarm as Pete casually disassembled part of the station's life support system without consulting any manuals, following any apparent safety procedures, or asking permission from anyone in authority. "Pete," Rivers said carefully, "perhaps this could wait until after our meeting?" "Oh, this'll just take a second," Pete replied, pulling out a length of duct tape and what appeared to be a spare part from an entirely different type of machinery. "The problem is that whoever installed this originally used the wrong coupling for the pressure sensor. Simple fix." He proceeded to demonstrate human problem-solving in real time. Instead of shutting down the system and following proper repair protocols, Pete simply rerouted the malfunctioning component using creative applications of standard tools, spare parts that were not designed for this purpose, and liberal amounts of duct tape. The Talani watched this process with the same expression humans might wear while watching someone perform surgery with gardening tools. When Pete finished his improvised repair and the environmental controls immediately began running more smoothly than they had in months, several of the aliens began communicating rapidly with each other in their own language. "There you go," Pete said, packing up his tools. "Good as new. Actually, probably better than new. Sometimes the original installation crews rush through these jobs and don't think about long-term reliability." He left the room still whistling cheerfully, completely unaware that he had just demonstrated humanity's casual disregard for established procedures, our tendency to modify critical systems without authorization, and our disturbing habit of achieving better results through improvisation than through following proper protocols. Veltar requested a brief recess to consult with his delegation. The humans offered refreshments during the break, including coffee, which several curious Talani delegates accepted. 20 minutes later, the aliens returned to their seats, moving noticeably faster than before and speaking in slightly higher-pitched voices. Amy made a mental note to warn future alien visitors about the effects of caffeine on species that had never encountered it before. The cultural exchange continued, but the atmosphere had definitely changed. Every human behavior that seemed normal to Amy and her colleagues appeared to cause increasing distress among their alien guests. When Tom laughed at something Pete had said before leaving, the Talani visibly flinched at the sudden loud noise. Meeting was definitely not proceeding according to anyone's plan. The morning sun cast long shadows across the military testing facility as General Brooks adjusted her uniform and watched the alien delegation emerge from their transport shuttle. Today would be the formal demonstration of human technological and military capabilities, a standard part of first contact protocols that allowed both species to understand each other's defensive capabilities and potential for cooperation or conflict. Ambassador Veltar and his team moved with their usual precise coordination, but Amy noticed they seemed more alert than during yesterday's cultural exchange. Their large dark eyes constantly scanned the area, taking in details of the human military installation with what appeared to be growing concern. "Welcome to Fort Henderson," General Brooks said, extending her hand in the human greeting gesture that the Talani had learned to reciprocate, though they still performed the handshake with mechanical precision. "We have prepared demonstrations of our defensive technologies and tactical capabilities as requested." Veltar inclined his head formally. "We appreciate your willingness to share this information, General Brooks. Understanding military capabilities is essential for proper integration into the Galactic Trade Consortium's mutual defense agreements." The first part of the demonstration proceeded exactly as planned. Human jets performed aerial maneuvers while the aliens watched politely. Ground vehicles displayed their speed and mobility capabilities. Satellite communication systems showed Earth's global monitoring network. The Talani took notes and asked technical questions that suggested they found human technology primitive but adequate for a developing species. "Your projectile weapons are remarkably inefficient," one Talani observer commented as soldiers demonstrated various firearms. "The energy expenditure relative to target effect seems wasteful." "Perhaps," General Brooks agreed, "but they are simple to manufacture, reliable under adverse conditions, and effective within their intended parameters." The alien delegation exchanged glances that clearly indicated they considered this another example of human preference for crude but functional solutions over elegant efficiency. Their own defensive technologies, from what little they had shared, relied on energy fields and directed force applications that required no physical projectiles or chemical explosives. Then General Brooks announced the final demonstration. "We would like to show you human tactical problem-solving under pressure. This will be a simulated emergency rescue scenario where our teams must adapt to changing conditions and overcome unexpected obstacles." The scenario began simply enough. A mock building collapse had trapped several training mannequins in a partially collapsed structure. 2 teams of human soldiers were tasked with extracting the victims as quickly and safely as possible while dealing with simulated hazards like unstable debris, electrical dangers, and limited access routes. The Talani settled into their observation area, expecting to watch a methodical operation following established emergency protocols. Instead, they witnessed something that challenged every assumption they had about military operations and civilized behavior. The first team approached the collapsed structure and immediately began ignoring the suggested approach routes. Instead of following the safe path marked by the exercise planners, they started climbing over unstable debris, crawling through spaces that were clearly labeled as dangerous, and using their equipment in ways that probably violated every safety regulation ever written. "Why are they not following the designated safe routes?" Veltar asked with growing alarm. "Because the safe routes take too long," General Brooks replied calmly. "In a real emergency, speed often matters more than following procedures." The second team took a completely different approach. Instead of using the standard rescue equipment, they began improvising tools from whatever materials they could find around the site. A maintenance ladder became a bridge. A construction tarp became a debris slide. Someone's belt was repurposed as a safety line. Both teams were clearly treating the exercise as a competition, calling out jokes and challenges to each other while working. When the first team successfully extracted 2 mannequins through an improvised route, the second team responded by attempting an even more creative solution involving a forklift, several wooden pallets, and what appeared to be someone's lunch cooler. The Talani delegation began murmuring amongst themselves in their own language, their voices becoming higher and more rapid as the exercise continued. When one soldier started using a small explosive charge to clear debris instead of slowly digging it out by hand, several aliens stood up from their seats in apparent distress. "General Brooks," Veltar said urgently, "are your soldiers following approved safety protocols?" "They are following human safety protocols," Brooks replied, "which means they are taking calculated risks to achieve the mission objective as quickly as possible." The exercise reached peak chaos when a group of civilian contractors who had been working nearby noticed the activity and decided to offer assistance. Without any official authorization, they drove their construction equipment over to the site and began their own improvised rescue attempt using a crane, several pickup trucks, and what looked like a carnival ride they had been transporting. The military teams, rather than ordering the civilians to leave the area, immediately incorporated them into the operation. Within minutes, the entire scenario had transformed from a controlled military exercise into a community-wide collaborative effort involving soldiers, contractors, maintenance workers, and several people who appeared to have stopped by just to see what was happening. "This is not a military demonstration," one Talani observer said in a strangled voice. "This is chaos." "This is humans," General Brooks said with obvious pride. "We adapt, we improvise, and we help each other. Sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected cooperation." The civilian team successfully extracted the remaining mannequins faster than either military team, using a combination of construction equipment and creative problem-solving that had never been attempted in any official training scenario. The soldiers responded with cheers and applause, treating the entire situation as a successful collaborative effort rather than a failure of military discipline. When the exercise officially ended, both military teams and the civilian volunteers gathered together to analyze what had worked and what could be improved. The discussion quickly became an enthusiastic brainstorming session where everyone contributed ideas for better techniques, more efficient tool use, and creative applications of available resources. The Talani delegation sat in stunned silence, as humans casually critiqued their own performance and suggested modifications to official procedures based on what they had learned during the improvised exercise. Several aliens were taking rapid notes while others appeared to be conducting urgent consultations with their ship's computers. General Brooks, Veltar said carefully, "Is this level of deviation from established protocols normal for human military operations?" "Absolutely," Brooks replied. "Our greatest strength is our ability to adapt to unexpected situations. We train our people to think creatively and work together, not just to follow orders." One young soldier, still energized from the exercise, approached the alien delegation with enthusiasm. "Did you see how we used the crane as a counterweight for the debris lift? That was not in any manual, but it worked perfectly. We should definitely add that technique to the training program." Talani stared at him with expressions that suggested they were witnessing something fundamentally incomprehensible. The idea that soldiers would modify official training programs based on improvised techniques, discovered during a single exercise, appeared to be completely beyond their understanding. As the demonstration concluded and everyone began packing up equipment, General Brooks noticed that Ambassador Veltar was communicating rapidly with his ship in the Talani language. The tone and urgency of the conversation suggested it was not a routine report. The humans had successfully demonstrated their technological capabilities, tactical flexibility, and collaborative problem-solving skills. Unfortunately, they had also demonstrated their casual disregard for safety protocols, their tendency to ignore official procedures when convenient, and their disturbing habit of turning serious military exercises into community social events. From the human perspective, the demonstration had been a complete success. From the Talani perspective, they had just witnessed clear evidence that humans might be the most dangerous species they had ever encountered. The emergency council chamber aboard the Talani vessel, Harmony, hummed with nervous energy as Ambassador Veltar paced before the curved walls displaying streams of data from their 3 days of contact with humanity. His usual composed demeanor had cracked, replaced by the fidgeting movements of someone whose worldview was rapidly crumbling. "The data makes no logical sense," Science Officer Temara reported, her voice tight with frustration. "According to their own records, humans simultaneously demonstrate advanced technological capability and complete disregard for basic safety protocols. They create beautiful art and also intentionally jump off cliffs for entertainment. They cooperate in complex global projects while arguing constantly about trivial matters." Veltar stopped pacing and studied the holographic displays showing intercepted human communications from across their planet. Since the news of first contact had spread, Earth's information networks had exploded with activity that defied every pattern the Talani had seen in their contacts with other species. "Look at this," communications specialist Koreth said, highlighting a stream of data. "In the past 18 hours, humans have created over 12,000 songs about meeting us, started 47 different conspiracy theories about our intentions, designed merchandise featuring our images, and organized parties in major cities to celebrate first contact." Veltar examined the data with growing horror. "They have turned diplomatic contact into commercial entertainment?" "It gets worse," Koreth continued. "Amateur radio operators have been attempting to contact our ship directly. Artists have been launching drawings toward us using balloons. Someone has created what they call a meme, featuring my face combined with images of their domestic animals. The main display shifted to show intercepted television broadcasts where human news anchors discuss the aliens with casual humor, making jokes and speculating wildly about Talani culture based on no evidence whatsoever. Talk show hosts interviewed experts who admitted they knew nothing about the aliens but offered opinions anyway. Comedy programs featured performers pretending to be Talani delegates for the apparent entertainment of their audiences. "They are not taking this seriously," Veltar said, his voice rising in pitch. "First contact with an alien species should be the most significant moment in their planetary history, and they have turned it into casual entertainment." Security Chief Nareth brought up additional displays showing even more disturbing human behavior. Military satellites from several Earth nations have been repositioning to observe our ship. Not in a threatening manner, but they appear to be treating us as a curiosity to study, rather than a diplomatic contact to respect. And their internet, Tamara added with obvious distress, they have connected their entire global population to a system that allows anyone to share any information or opinion without verification, organization, or quality control. The volume of contradictory data being generated about us is increasing exponentially. Veltar activated the communication system to contact the Galactic Trade Consortium headquarters. The quantum relay connected instantly, bringing the image of Council Director Zalmon into focus on the main screen. Ambassador Veltar, the director said calmly, your preliminary reports have been quite concerning. What is the current status of the integration process? Veltar gathered his composure before responding. Director, I must request immediate guidance and possible military support. The species designated human presents unprecedented challenges to our standard first contact protocols. Explain. They appear to be technologically advanced enough to achieve interplanetary travel and global communication, yet they demonstrate complete disregard for logical social organization. Their behavior suggests either advanced psychological manipulation tactics or genuine cognitive instability at the species level. Director Zalmon leaned forward with interest. That is a serious assessment, Ambassador. What specific behaviors support this conclusion? Veltar activated the data displays. They have somehow achieved faster-than-light communication technology without achieving interstellar travel. Their planet shows signs of rapid technological acceleration that defies our predictive models. When we demonstrated our standard cultural presentations, they responded with chaotic information sharing that appears designed to overwhelm rather than inform. And their military capabilities? They demonstrated tactical adaptability that ignores all established safety and efficiency protocols. Rather than following proven methods, they improvise solutions in real time and treat serious military exercises as social competitions. They appear to modify their own procedures constantly based on untested innovations. The director studied the data streams. Ambassador, these behaviors sound unusual but not necessarily threatening. Director, they have turned first contact into planetary entertainment. Their entire population is now generating random communications about us, without any central authority providing guidance or control. We estimate they will produce more speculative content about us in the next day than most species generate about galactic contact in their first year. As if to prove his point, the communication system suddenly started receiving incoming signals from Earth. Hundreds of them, in multiple languages, from sources ranging from government facilities to what appeared to be individual humans broadcasting from their personal residences. Harmony, this is amateur radio station WB6ABC. Welcome to Earth. We have prepared a selection of our finest music to share with you as a gesture of friendship. Alien ship, this is the Henderson Elementary School 4th grade class. We drew pictures of your beautiful vessel and would like to invite you to visit our school. Hey aliens, this is Dave from Phoenix. Just wanted to say thanks for not invading us or anything. Peace out, space friends. Korath frantically tried to filter the incoming communications, but new signals were arriving faster than they could be processed. The ship's translation computers, designed to handle formal diplomatic languages, began struggling with human slang, regional accents, and cultural references. Director, Veltar said urgently, they are attempting to communicate with us directly, bypassing all official diplomatic channels. The volume and randomness of these contacts suggest either a coordinated psychological operation or complete absence of social control mechanisms. Ambassador, perhaps you should try responding to some of these communications to better understand their intentions. Before Veltar could object, the ship's computer system suddenly chimed with an incoming data stream that was several orders of magnitude larger than anything they had received before. Warning indicators began flashing as their databases struggled to process the massive influx of information. What is happening? Director Zalmon asked as the communication link began showing signs of interference. Tamara worked frantically at her console. Someone on Earth has established a direct connection to our external sensors and is transmitting their entire global information network directly to us. The main displays began cycling rapidly through human internet content, social media posts, news articles, entertainment videos, educational materials, shopping websites, personal blogs, and millions of other data sources flowed past faster than anyone could process. The ship's computers, designed to analyze structured information from organized civilizations, began overheating as they tried to categorize and understand the chaotic flood of human culture. "Cut the connection," Veltar ordered. "I am trying, but they appear to have bypassed our security protocols. The transmission is coming through communication channels we did not know existed." Warning alarms began sounding throughout the ship as computer systems struggled with the data overload. The artificial intelligence managing their life support systems started generating error messages as it tried to process information about human entertainment, advertising, personal relationships, political debates, scientific discussions, and cat videos simultaneously. "Emergency shutdown of all non-essential systems," Veltar commanded. The ship's lights dimmed as they switched to emergency power to prevent complete computer failure. The massive data stream finally ended, leaving their systems struggling to recover from what appeared to be the most comprehensive information attack in galactic history. "Director," Veltar said when the communication link stabilized, "I am formally requesting immediate military backup. We have encountered a species of unknown technological capability that may be engaging in hostile information warfare. Their behavior is completely unpredictable and potentially dangerous to our ship and crew." Director Zalmon studied the chaos on his screens. "Ambassador, are you certain they intended this as an attack?" "Director, they have just transmitted their entire planetary culture to us without warning or permission. Either this is a deliberate assault on our computer systems, or their species is genuinely incapable of understanding the concept of information boundaries." "I see your point, Ambassador. A battle fleet will be dispatched to your location immediately. Maintain defensive positions and avoid further direct contact until backup arrives." As the communication ended, Veltar looked around at his exhausted crew and their struggling computer systems. In 70 years of diplomatic service, he had never encountered anything like humanity. Whether they were dangerous or simply insane, he was no longer qualified to determine alone. The space around Luna Gateway looked like the galaxy's most disorganized parking lot, as Captain Rivers stared out at the collection of vessels that had somehow assembled in Earth orbit. The Galactic Trade Consortium battle fleet had arrived in perfect formation, their sleek warships positioned with mathematical precision around the smaller Talani diplomatic vessel. Surrounding both alien fleets, however, was the most eclectic collection of human spacecraft ever gathered in one location. Government vessels from a dozen nations floated alongside private yachts, converted cargo ships, experimental aircraft with hastily attached rocket boosters, and what appeared to be a school bus that someone had somehow made space-worthy. Amateur space enthusiasts, curious billionaires, news crews, and adventure seekers had all converged on humanity's first interstellar diplomatic crisis. "Sir," Tom said, looking up from his communication console with barely controlled panic, "I'm receiving over 300 different requests for permission to dock, film, interview, or just observe the proceedings. Also, someone is asking if we can recommend a good restaurant that delivers to orbit." Rivers rubbed his temples and tried to focus on the immediate crisis. The arrival of a Galactic Trade Consortium military fleet suggested that their cultural misunderstandings had escalated far beyond simple diplomatic awkwardness. Dr. Amy Walsh had spent the past hour reviewing their interaction records, trying to identify exactly where first contact had gone so catastrophically wrong. "Captain," Amy said, approaching with a stack of data tablets, "I think I understand what happened. The Talani have interpreted our normal human behavior as either deliberate psychological warfare or evidence of dangerous instability." "Which behaviors specifically?" Rivers asked. "All of them," Amy replied. "Our creativity looks like chaos to them. Our adaptability looks like unpredictability. Our enthusiasm about first contact looks like we are not taking them seriously. And when our amateur radio operators and internet users started contacting, Their ship directly. They probably thought we were launching some kind of coordinated information attack. Tom looked up from his console again. Captain, the alien battle fleet is requesting immediate communication. They want to speak with whoever is in charge of the human war effort. Rivers sighed deeply. Put them through. The main screen activated, showing a Talani military commander whose bearing and expression suggested he was prepared for the worst. Behind him, Rivers could see other aliens monitoring what appeared to be tactical displays and weapons systems. Human vessels, this is Fleet Commander Kelness of the Galactic Trade Consortium Defense Force. We are here to resolve the situation involving our diplomatic mission. Identify your military leadership immediately. Commander Kelness, this is Captain Rivers of Luna Gateway. I am the senior human representative for this first contact mission. There seems to be some misunderstanding about our intentions. Captain Rivers, our diplomatic team has reported hostile and unpredictable behavior from your species. We have detected multiple unauthorized communications attempts, apparent information warfare attacks on our vessel, and complete disregard for established diplomatic protocols. Explain your actions. Rivers glanced at Amy and Tom, both of whom looked as confused as he felt. Commander, we have not engaged in any hostile actions. Our people were simply expressing enthusiasm about meeting your species for the first time. Enthusiasm? Commander Kelness looked skeptical. Your planet generated over 50,000 communications directed at our vessel in less than 24 hours. You transmitted your entire cultural database to our ship without permission, causing system overloads. Your military demonstrated complete disregard for safety protocols and standard tactical procedures. Amy stepped forward. Commander, may I speak? I think there has been a serious cultural misunderstanding. Proceed. What you are interpreting as hostile or unstable behavior is actually how humans normally respond to new and exciting situations. We are naturally curious, creative, and social. When something important happens, we want to share it, understand it, and participate in it. The alien commander studied her through the screen. Dr. Walsh, according to our records, your species turned diplomatic first contact into commercial entertainment and casual social interaction. This suggests either lack of respect for the significance of the event or deliberate manipulation, tactics. Tom suddenly looked up from his console with an expression of realization. Captain, I think I know what happened. Remember when I accidentally played music during the first meeting? And when Pete fixed the environmental controls without following procedures? And when the internet thing happened? They think we were doing all of that on purpose. Rivers began to understand the scope of the misunderstanding. To a species that valued order, predictability, and following established protocols, human spontaneity and improvisation would indeed look like chaos or deliberate disruption. Commander Kelness, Rivers said, would you be willing to allow a small demonstration? I believe we can resolve this misunderstanding, but we need to show you something about human nature. Before the alien commander could respond, warning alarms began sounding throughout the space station. The display screen showed a massive solar storm approaching, with radiation levels and electromagnetic interference that threatened both the human station and the alien vessels. All vessels, this is Luna Gateway Control, the emergency broadcast announced. Major solar event incoming. Estimated time to peak intensity, 47 minutes. All ships should implement radiation shielding and prepare for possible system failures. Tom immediately started calculating shielding requirements and power allocation needs. Amy began coordinating with the various human vessels to ensure everyone had adequate protection. Rivers opened communication channels to provide guidance to the less experienced civilian craft that had joined the impromptu fleet. The Talani vessels responded with typical efficiency, activating their advanced shielding systems and positioning themselves in optimal defensive formations. Their technology was clearly superior, and they handled the emergency with calm precision. But something was wrong. The alien ship's perfect shielding systems were designed for predictable space hazards, not the chaotic and variable nature of solar storms. As the radiation levels began climbing beyond their calculated parameters, their defensive systems started showing signs of stress. Commander Kelness, Rivers said urgently. Our sensors show your shielding is beginning to fluctuate. The storm pattern is more irregular than your systems anticipated. Our technology is adequate, the commander replied, but Rivers could see concern in his expression as status displays behind him began showing warning indicators. Tom was already working, frantically at his console, analyzing the storm patterns and calculating potential solutions. Captain, their shielding works perfectly for normal space weather, but this storm is generating interference patterns that are causing resonance failures in their energy fields. Can we help them? Maybe, but not using standard procedures. We would need to modify our own systems to create a complementary shielding pattern, and we would have to do it fast. Rivers looked at the approaching solar storm, the struggling alien technology, and the collection of improvised human spacecraft surrounding them. This was exactly the kind of situation where human adaptability could make the difference between success and disaster. Do it, he ordered. What happened next was pure human chaos in action. Tom began rapidly recalculating shield harmonics while broadcasting instructions to every human vessel in the area. Engineers on dozen different ships started modifying their systems without waiting for official approval or detailed safety analysis. The civilian volunteers contributed whatever resources they had, from spare power cells to creative applications, of their improvised equipment. Within 20 minutes, the diverse collection of human spacecraft had created an interlocking network of adaptive shields that complemented and reinforced the alien defensive systems. The solution was not elegant or efficient, but it worked. As the solar storm reached peak intensity, the combined human-alien fleet rode out the radiation bombardment with minimal damage. Ambassador Veltar, who had been watching the emergency, response from his diplomatic vessel, contacted the human station. Captain Rivers, your people just saved our fleet using techniques that violate every established engineering protocol I know. Rivers smiled. Ambassador, that is exactly what humans do. We improvise, we adapt, and we solve problems using whatever resources are available. What looks like chaos to you is actually creativity under pressure. But you modified critical systems without proper testing or safety verification, Veltar protested. And it worked, Tom interjected. Sometimes the best solution is not the safest solution or the most elegant solution. Sometimes it is just the solution that works right now with what you have available. Dr. Walsh seized the moment to explain what had been happening throughout their contact. Ambassador, everything that has confused or alarmed you about human behavior represents the same kind of thinking that just saved your ships. We do not wait for permission to try new ideas. We do not follow procedures when we can see better. Approaches. We share information freely because we believe knowledge belongs to everyone. Commander Kelnas had been monitoring the conversation from his battlecruiser. Dr. Walsh, are you saying that your species' apparent disregard for proper protocols is actually a functional adaptation? Not just functional, Rivers replied. It is our greatest strength. We solve problems that other species cannot solve because we approach them differently. What you see as dangerous unpredictability, we see as creative flexibility. The solar storm began to subside, and the emergency coordination between human and alien vessels gradually transitioned into normal operations. But the collaboration had fundamentally changed how both species viewed each other. Veltar's final report to the Galactic Trade Consortium was unlike any first contact assessment in their history. Species designation, human. Threat level, negligible. To hostile forces, beneficial to allies. Unique characteristics, controlled chaos as problem-solving methodology. Recommendation, full partnership with expanded cultural exchange protocols. Warning, highly contagious enthusiasm and creative thinking. Recommend preparation of diplomatic staff for unconventional approaches to standard situations. The formal treaty negotiations that followed established humanity, not as another client species to be integrated into existing galactic structures, but as partners whose different approach to challenges could benefit the entire consortium. The Talani learned to appreciate controlled unpredictability, while humans gained access to galactic knowledge and systematic approaches to complex problems. 6 months later, Captain Rivers received a message from the joint human-alien expedition. that was exploring the galaxy's most dangerous and unpredictable region. The mission, crewed by humans who were crazy enough to volunteer and aliens who had learned to value creative problem-solving, was already making discoveries that neither species could have achieved alone. The message concluded with a phrase that had become popular among both species. Someone has to see what is out there, and apparently we are the perfect team to try.